Aloha, welcome to another edition of the Above the Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Thaddeus. I want to shout out our sponsors first. We have Defend Hawaii. They've been with us from the beginning. If you go on their website, defendhawaii.com, they also have a store in Whittier Mall called No One, have all their latest drops and accessories. Go check them out. If you go on their website, defendhawaii.com, promo code ATBpod upon checkout, you'll receive 15% off whatever you order. Go check them out. Next, we have IREP Detail Supply. If you go to their website, irepdetailsupply.com, they have whatever you need to get your car detailed, smelling new, looking new. Go check them out. They also have a store in Temple Valley Shopping Center. irepdetailsupply.com, promo code ATBpod upon checkout, 15% off your entire purchase order. We have Hawaii Candy Factory, and you see their candies everywhere. One of my favorite snacks, they have these peach gummies with lihimui and lemon peel on is my favorite. I eat it all the time. They have a website. If you go hawaiicandyfactory.com, promo code ATBpod upon checkout, 10% off your entire purchase order. And last but not least, we have medmushroomhawaii.com. This is Medicinal Mushrooms Hawaii. One of my friends owns this company, and they have what they call lion's mane. It's a mushroom company, and he has lion's mane extract in tincture form. If you go to their website, it's medmushroomhawaii.com, and use promo code ATBpod upon checkout, all capitals. You'll receive 40% off your first tincture of lion's mane. And if you don't know what lion's mane does, it's known to increase your memory, energy, your focus, and improve your mood. I usually put 3 drops of this stuff in my coffee every morning, and it definitely changes my aspect on a lot of things. So go check it out. medmushroomhigh.com. Aloha. Okay, this week my guest is somebody I've known for a long time, used to come to our club events, but is very influential in Hawaii MMA back in the day, and also with Bellator back in the day. He was the matchmaker. He's doing some new things right now, and I'm glad to have him on the show. Rich Chou, what's up, brother?
Hey, long time. This is, man, what do we go back over 20 years or so, right around 20 years. So
Yeah, it's
we're
been a
old.
while.
We're old now.
We don't look it though. You definitely don't look
No,
it.
no, we still look good. I
Yeah.
will give us that. But yes, this is a nice little blast from the past. I'm excited and honored to be on here and looking forward to talking story.
Yeah, thank you for taking time out. I know you're living in the mainland, and yeah, you're in cowboy country now, huh?
Yeah, you know, Dallas, Texas, we're enjoying it. Great place to raise a family. I got 2 young kids, and we're really enjoying it here. The only complaint I have, as you kind of hinted at, is dealing with all the Cowboys fans, but we've been kicking their ass lately, so
Yeah,
it's all good.
been ending their season of the last 2 years, so yeah, they can't really say much to you. They're just annoying, to be honest.
You know, it's crazy how big they are here, though. I really have to respect that, is the appreciation and the fan base. Like, I've lived in a couple places in the mainland, and even in the Bay Area, being a Niner fan like you, it's bigger here. Like, Cowboys football is a big deal here,
Right.
which makes it even more fun when we beat them. So yeah.
Right on. So recently I was talking to some of my friends who grew up watching MMA with me back in the day, and your name came up a bunch. It was a great time. It was like what, late 90s, early 2000s, when Hawaii MMA, in my opinion, was at its peak with it was Super Brawl, then it became Icon Sport, and then you guys were doing Rumble, Elite, K1. Those times were very, very much a huge part of where Hawaii got its start with MMA. How did you even get involved with any of that stuff?
You know, I got involved. Well, first I actually started off as somebody who enjoyed training. So I was training. I actually fought in Super Brawl. I forget what number it was, but in 2002, you know, I was training over at Egan's at Grappling Unlimited in IAEA, and just really enjoying the sport and kind of got involved with everything from that standpoint. Just loved jiu-jitsu. And at that time, everyone who was getting into jiu-jitsu at the gym and some of the guys I was hanging out with, you know, it all eventually led to MMA. So took that ride and fought and in Super Brawl. And then shortly after I met the Penn family. And they
You're
were
living
running.
on Oahu at the time.
Yes, that's right. And so I was on Oahu and just really enjoying, you know, the local MMA scene. I mean, you really have to remember that back then it wasn't even legal in California yet, New York, like it was still kind of this underground thing. And I think that's what also made it, as you mentioned earlier, it was like a special time. It was like it was the golden era. And I think having that, you know, having the sport not, you know, was still in its infancy. Like I said, it wasn't even legal in these major states. And so Hawaii, that I think helped contribute to why it was so special there. You know, it wasn't all over TV yet. It was still like, remember when we used to go to the Blaisdell back then? It used to feel like it was like something almost like you were going to like Fight Club or something, right? It was
Yeah.
like underground. It wasn't on TV, the internet wasn't, you know, you couldn't find it on the internet. It wasn't streaming. You had to go to a live event to get it. So you
Yeah.
had to show up, you had to buy your ticket, you had to show up to the Blaisdell. And I think that's what made it extra special. Whereas now you can just watch it on your phone, sitting on the toilet. You can, you know,
Yeah.
like it's so accessible and everywhere. And of course it didn't used to be that way 20 plus years ago, you know, when we were getting going.
The scene back then, it would sell out. Like the hype around each fight, so it would be, man, I can't wait till this weekend. There's a Rumble. Or I remember going to watch BJ fight Takanori Gomi at Blaisdell, and it felt like it was heavyweight championship, world championship fight. That the buzz in Hawaii was so huge, and when you got to the arena, it was sold out. It I mean, there were no seats open, and it was just huge. Is something that we haven't got to see recently until you guys brought Bellator back, but it wasn't a it was a local show, which was crazy.
Yeah. And I do think going back to that supply demand, how it was just something that you looked forward to, right? Oh,
Yeah.
tickets went on sale for an event 2 months from now. Like you marked your calendar and you made sure you were there, and everyone just, the sport was a lot smaller then. And you knew everybody that was fighting. You could redo your research on the internet. And yeah, it was a big deal. Everyone got together. That was the most fun, I think, back then. Um, just getting the whole community together, you know, you guys coming out, all the guys we'd see out at the clubs having a good time. And it was just fun, right? It was just an extension of all that. We'd go watch the fights, go be entertained, and then we'd go out and have a good time. And you know, it was for me a very special time to learn about the industry. Um, you know, being with the boys, with JD, BJ, Reagan, them, we did everything, you know, and it was a family business. You know, JD's wife, fiance at the time was, you know, was helping out. It was like a small group of us just going forward, doing big things. And so you had like a little family business, a little family operation, which was really cool. But I got a chance to do everything. Like we touched every aspect of the business. We really got into it. And that became very beneficial for me moving forward to get all that experience, you know, because it's if you want to get into the fight business, people ask me this all the time. It's like, how do I break in? How do I be a promoter? How do I be a matchmaker? Like you don't really go to school for it, right? You don't get certified. You kind of just gotta just jump in and pay your dues and learn that way. It's almost like, I guess, the school of hard knocks, so to speak, right? You're just one of those things. You just gotta get in there. And for me, luckily, that was a great time. I mean, talk about just perfect timing for me to jump in, learn with the right guys, right place to learn, because it was a special time. Nowadays, it's, when we think of MMA and the way it's presented, I mean, it's on ESPN, it's on Showtime, it's on major networks, and it's a sport, right? It's
Yeah.
truly a sport today in 2023. But back then, I mean, this, Thaddeus, it wasn't really a sport. It was
Yeah.
fighting, you know? We went to go watch fighters, not athletes, right? It was just a different vibe to it.
Yeah.
Guys just wanted to fight. I can tell you that it wasn't like guys thought about their careers, not that that's not important, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the time it was, the era, the landscape, however you want to describe it, was one of guys didn't think twice. They just wanted to fight. They didn't think about what this is going to do for my career, my following, they wanted tough, exciting fights. And so that it was just different in so many ways. And I think to sum up that thought, it's kind of the era of the fighter and the gladiator and the warrior. And now it's a sport, right? A lot of
Yeah.
money, a lot of exposure, a lot of coverage, a lot of opportunity. Back in the day, there was none of that. So guys just fought for the love. Guys just fought because they truly loved it, and they just wanted to scrap in the Blaisdell,
Yep.
right?
Half
And
the
rep
time
there.
the fans too were fighting.
Yeah, it was the place for scraps, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted to rep your team, what part of the island you were from. Like it was really like roots. And now, as we've said, it's totally different, man. It's big
Yeah.
business. You do have to protect your record. You do have to take the smart fights. You do have to, you can truly have a career and make a great living. There's real money now. So it's evolved quite a bit, but I think that's another element of why back in the day it was so different,
Yeah.
yeah, if
What
that makes
was
sense.
so you got involved with Rumble on the Rock, which was owned by BJ's family, correct?
Yes, yes. So JD at the time, BJ was fighting in the show. JD and his wife Jody were basically running it. We met, got a chance to really get to know each other. And JD, and just he gave me a break. He said, hey, I love your passion for MMA, and seems like you like to hustle, and so why don't we try out bringing you on board? And that was my big break. So I'll always be grateful, to him and to the family for that, because without that, who knows what would have happened. But that opportunity and that break that they gave me allowed me again to learn the sport, on every level, and just yeah, just get, it was priceless.
I remember I just was cleaning out my closet and I found the K1 Rumble shirt from Aloha Stadium where BJ fought Gracie.
Yeah,
And
Enzo.
yeah, and me and my friend Frank were there, like we were like kind of almost cage side. And I remember sitting at Aloha Stadium looking at the cage and just being was it cage? Yeah, it was a cage, huh?
Oh
And it
no,
was
that one was a ring, actually.
oh, that was because it was K1. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
did. There was the K1. They did a Hawaii Grand Prix. So it
Yeah.
was mixed kickboxing and MMA. So that particular one was in a ring, actually, at the
Yeah.
state.
And BJ fought Gracie. I remember Mike Malone got to fight kickboxing as an alternative, and a couple of people that we knew were fighting in it. And it was surreal to think, wow, this thing was really in a stadium and it was growing. What do you remember from that time, and how Hawaii was? What was your memorable events that you guys promoted?
Gosh. you know, they're all special to me in different ways. I have different memories. What you mentioned, you know, BJ versus Henzo was massive. That was like a big deal in the jiu-jitsu community, because, you know, BJ had trained with Henzo's brother Half. So there was just, you know, that created a lot of drama and controversy in the jiu-jitsu community, which was really great for the hype for the fight. You know, Hicks and Gracie and a lot of the Gracie members were out there supporting Henzo because they had to beat this guy, right? They had to beat
Yeah.
this traitor, right? Who left the family and started training with some other guys. And then you know, we had Mike Tyson there, like it was at the stadium, like that was a big deal, you know, for the just how grand and big that event was, right? It was the first event at the stadium. Like it was something we thought was going to be, you know, it's like something you dream about, and then you actually have the opportunity to go pull it off. But all the other shows at the Blaisdell too, there was all, you
Yeah.
know, there was everyone had like a special moment or a backstory or something that I remember. You know, we had the welterweight Grand Prix. You know, it was Anderson Silva's first fight in America.
Oh, that
But
was the illegal up kick, huh?
yeah, that's
I
right.
remember that.
And Troy made the right call. He did the right thing. That was a good job by him. But yeah, that kind of unfortunately kind of spoiled his debut. But I'll always remember it. You know, and that was like the coming out party for Carlos Condit and Jake
Yeah.
Shields. So, you know, and then prior to that, there's you know, every show I had a big like takeaway, you know, like either something really great happened, like you saw a guy later on down the line become a really great world champion or somebody special in the sport, or there was just something that I experienced that I remember, you know, kind of more like nostalgic. So there was just so many great moments. Yeah, but those big ones stand out, you know, Tank and versus Cabbage, BJ
Yeah.
Only. Like we try to do big events, and that's the thing I think that I really learned from JD and what I always loved and what I still try to carry with me to this day. Like he went for it. He dreamt big and he went for it. And I was just lucky enough to work with him to pull off some of these mega events where we're just we could have been out at like one of your nights, you know, hanging out.
Yeah.
You guys were promoting a party, we'd be out just having a good time, blowing off some steam, and he'd just like start this conversation like about, hey, what do you think if we did, you know, a fight at Aloha Stadium or, you know, stuff like that, like to talk about crazy fun big stuff like that, you know, and then be in a position to actually at that so early on be in a position to actually help pull it off, you know, was so much fun and amazing, and I learned so much. But yeah, he just JD just always thinking big. BJ too, obviously, you know, just sitting there flying up to the Big Island as many times as I did, and everyone just hanging out and just talking big. You know, BJ obviously always went for it too, right? Just
Yeah.
a big you know, had a big appetite and just dream big, go for it. And those are things that I love about those times, and being with those boys in particular of, hey, let's go for this, let's do this. And at the time you're like, fuck man, this sounds crazy. I mean, pardon my French, like,
Oh, good.
wow, this is crazy. Like, there's no way, like, how are we going to pull that off? And then you just keep working on it, keep chipping away, and you're like, no, I think we can do this. So very memorable time, very memorable events. I'm glad you appreciate it.
Yeah.
I still run into people. I mean, put this in perspective, like it's one thing to have like when you go into a city and you find like a regional show, there's, you know, it's rare that you'll ever find a moment where you had two events, because Icon and Rumble were both like putting on really great fights for
Yeah.
the fans. And you don't really see that anymore, like to that level. It was really, and that going back to what I call it, the golden era, just having that time of they were putting on good events, and we'd be like, oh man, that was fun. Like we gotta step up, right? We gotta
Yeah.
match that, we gotta surpass that. So we were pushing each other and you know, bringing in great fighters, putting on big shows, trying our best to be creative, elevate the production, the storylines. Like, you know, it was it was a big factor in what made us better was TJ. And TJ and I are, you know, close to this day. I went from fighting for him in Super Brawl to being his competition with the Rumble. And then later we worked together at Elite XC and Bellator. And we always talk about that time to this day. Like, you know, yeah, nothing comes close.
Yeah, I remember the Elite XC event you guys did in Hawaii. You guys pitched it as Super Brawl Icon versus Rumble, and you guys
Yeah.
had the Rumble guys versus the Icon guys, and yeah, that was memorable. And just you guys bringing Elite XC down here was cool. We seen that um big rumble in the ring after
Yeah.
Diaz,
Yeah.
yeah, I forget, it was Diaz. He got mad
KJ.
at KJ Noons. That's who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it
yeah.
was a fun time. So we, you know, what really helped prepare us for that moment to start working with Elite XC was, you know, doing the Rumble, partnering with K1. You know, JD developed that relationship and got us these opportunities to put on these big fights with the K1. And again, that took our knowledge and imagination to the next level, because they were doing the biggest shows in the world, right?
Yeah.
K1 was, and you know, they taught us, they showed us the way. We learned a lot from them. And then the Elite XC opportunity came up. So we had a chance to go and help launch that brand. And that launched on Showtime and on CBS. So it was actually the first fight promotion on premium TV and also network TV. So another great learning experience. And we got a chance to bring some of those shows back, you know, back to Oahu at the Blaisdell. I believe we did at least 2 of them, right? There was that Diaz.
Yeah.
KJ beat Eve Edwards in the main event. And then Nick came in and they, you know,
The
set up.
dad and everything got into it. KJ's
Yeah, that
dad.
was yeah, that was wild. That was wild. And then another Elite XC fight we brought was Robbie Lawler versus Ninja Hua.
Oh, I remember that.
That was
Yeah.
for the 185 belt at the time. So yeah, it's just so fun to talk about these crazy moments and these great fighters. I mean, those guys all went on, you know, to continue fighting and just be legendary. So when you really look at the history of MMA in Hawaii, and it's so like there's a really great legacy, there's roots in there, and it branches all the way out until today.
Yeah. For me, it was cool as a fan, and I was a fan from the beginning. I got to meet all these fighters because you guys would all bring them out to my events after.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of pictures with Anderson. I even got one with Little Evil. I got to meet all these fighters and up and coming guys who later on got to do big things, and it was all because of you guys bringing them up to our events after having fun. So I always appreciative for that.
Oh, what a time. Hey, we knew who was throwing the best parties, and you guys always took care of us, and hopefully we, you know, you feel good about us taking care of you. And that was something that was also special about that time was, and you and I talked about this earlier. It's like we all recognize what we were all doing. You guys were hustling, doing your thing, working hard, you know, building something. And I loved how close you guys were. And you guys were like a family too. So
Yeah.
we saw that, and we were motivated and inspired. And I think what it was like young local guys just recognizing, you know, even though we do different things, I think there was just this feeling of hey, I recognize what you're doing and we're down to help support. And we were all just helping and supporting each other. That's another thing that was a big deal to me as I look back, was how much support we got from so many different people and groups. And we
Yeah.
always try to give that back. And it was just a fun time where we
And
were
we're
all
all young and hungry and
yeah.
trying to live our best life and have the most fun.
And we did. And we
Yeah.
did. I have no regrets. I have nothing but great memories. It always brings a smile to my face. And I will tell you this, that, you know, it's not just us that talk about it. You know, it's not just us old guys now that look back on it. Every time I see guys that we brought in, that we worked with back in the day, it always comes up somehow. I was just with, for example, here in Dallas, the Logan Paul Nate Diaz fight was just here. And, you know, I got a chance to work with Team Diaz during that week. And, I bump into, Gilbert Melendez and Jake Shields, and every time, man, we always somehow we go back,
Yeah.
hey, it's where we all came up. That's when I first met you guys. You guys were coming up young, aspiring fighters. We were the young aspiring promoters. And it comes up, and every at least once a week, someone I'll connect with someone, I'll reconnect with someone, and it'll come up, just like this,
Yep.
hey,
Definitely.
remember back in the day? And I'm like, hell yeah, I sure do. I'm not the type to constantly live in the past. I'm very proud of the work we did after, but it was so special. I'm always happy and have fun, like looking back on it.
Yeah. In your opinion, the future of Hawaii MMA, what do you think it's at? I was fortunate enough to work on some production with Destiny MMA over the past 8 or 9 years. And it's definitely not the same. It's definitely, I know, because these fighters, they have contracts now, they can't really grow the Hawaii brand. But in your opinion, how do you view the Hawaii MMA scene now, and what do you think the future is for Hawaii MMA?
Well, you can't deny, I think it's been proven time and time again that there's just amazing talent, right? On all
Yeah.
the islands, not just the Oahu, on all the islands. So I think the boys that have put it on the line, we've had a couple world champions, like they put Hawaii on the map. Everyone knows Hawaii fighters are the real deal. So we know there's a lot of talent. I think it's about cultivating the talent. From my understanding, prior to, it was really cool, and that's why it was such a big deal when we were able to bring Bellator, right? When Scott Coker was able to do
Yeah.
his thing and bring the promotion there, and they just had a show there again, right? Not that long ago. So that was great to bring a big event back, because I think what that does is it gives local guys an opportunity. It gives young talented fighters an opportunity, but and it also gives like that young generation something to look for, right? Something, because I think that's also important, is to see what's possible, right?
Yeah.
See a big show there up front. Not everyone can fly out and watch an event. It costs money, time, and just various reasons why it's hard. But I always look around and I love seeing young guys, young fighters, they're kind of looking, and just one day, it helps create that dream and build that dream and that vision. So I think it's important for a couple of different reasons to have a big events pass through. But I do think eventually and hopefully we can get, the local scene coming on, like the Destiny shows, X1, a lot of the shows that focused on the local talent and weren't bringing in as many mainland guys. Those are equally as important. You got to
Yeah.
cultivate that talent, and hopefully you can keep a lot of it there, because we know there's a lot of local boys that end up moving, right? Go Vegas or different parts. I know there's a lot of guys in Arizona too. So
Yeah.
if you can try and keep that at home, I mean, it's no different than, let's say, um, I'll use an example like a UH football or something, right? Like obviously there's a lot of great talent. A lot of it gets sent to different schools, right? Like
Yeah.
when you look at how many guys from Hawaii went and played college football for major powerhouse schools and were in contention for Heisman trophies and whatnot, imagine if they all stayed, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So I would like to see, just there's great leaders. I know Max still, I believe, and he's fighting this weekend, which is
Yeah.
perfect. But I believe he still does his camps in Hawaii and keeps
Yeah.
rooted there, and I think that's great. And he's working with guys, and all those guys that are lucky to be around him, they're getting better, but they need a place to fight and to continue to grow, and it'd be nice if there could be another promotion. It's tricky though. At the same time, I'm not calling anyone out. It's hard, as we talked about earlier. The game is different, the business is different, and it's not just about setting up at the Blaisdell anymore, because again, MMA is so accessible,
Yeah.
right? So it's tricky. I know there are some people committed to growing. I've had some conversations with some people. I can't speak about them quite yet, but I know that there are people that are working on it, that are thinking about having the same conversation as you and I. How do we get the scene back to what it was? Because that's just going to be great for all the local fighters. Because, yeah, there's so much talent over
Yeah.
there. It's unbelievable.
And I do believe that the shows in itself became bigger than the individual fighters at one point, where it didn't matter who was fighting, it would sell out because of the hype of the show. And I would love to see that again. I mean, sometimes UFC sells out and nobody before it even announced the card. And
Yeah.
if that would happen in Hawaii, that would be awesome. But yeah, it's kind of rough now with um big name fighters not being able to fight in Hawaii because they have contracts with UFC or
Yeah.
Bellator. And I know that you were instrumental in bringing Bellator to Hawaii, or help with that, being that you got to be you're the matchmaker at Bellator, huh?
Yes, I was. Scott, it's something Scott Coker, who's the president of Bellator now, it's something he always wanted to do. We'd always talk about it, even when I worked with him at Strikeforce. So I went from Elite XC, just to rewind briefly. After Elite XC, I went to Strikeforce. And that's when I met Scott, and I moved to the Bay Area. I left Hawaii and I moved to the Bay Area, and I started working with him. And he even talked about it back then. So I knew going to Hawaii was something he really, really wanted to do. And he always loved coming to our show, our Rumble K1 shows.
Yeah,
Hey man, how do we get it back? How do we get it back? And so the opportunity was there, the opening was there, and the timing of having a local fighter, which was Ilima, to kind of
yeah,
lead the way. Ilima Mcfarland, who she's amazing. And yeah, just the perfect timing, just opening, the right fighter, and that first one was big too. That
yeah.
first that
I
first
was
Bellator
there for that.
show.
That was amazing. It felt like old school. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And that's what we all said that night. We all seeing all the OGs again,
yeah,
all the OGs, Egan, Ensign. I remember seeing Falanico, the Juns, the Coopers, the Kamakas, right? It was like this
yeah,
really fun reunion. And we were all able to rally again and have that. It had been a long time since there was a moment like that. So it was super fun. I totally recognized it. I grew up on like respecting and watching and learning from all those guys. So to have that moment and see everyone come together again for one night
yeah,
and kind of rally around Hawaii's newest talent, which was Ilima. And she did her thing and delivered, and it was just
yeah.
super fun.
It
So
was chicken skin when they played her song and they came out with the flags. And it was just, it felt like Nico versus who was it, Masanori Suda?
yeah,
Yeah, back in the day.
yeah.
Yeah,
It brought us back to those moments, BJ versus Rodrigo Gracie, which was at the
yeah,
Blaisdell. Yeah. Nico, Suda, because Suda had just beaten Egan, right? Which
yep,
was Egan was like the first MMA star
yeah,
in Hawaii, and I was lucky to be around him at that time and be at the gym. And so yeah, there's all these great moments with all these iconic local fighters. And it was that same magic that was there that night. And she got a chance to do her thing a few more times over there. And so Bellator's been going, but one show a year ain't enough. I would like
yeah,
to see more local and regional type events where the young talent can kind of cultivate that talent and learn and get better and just keep going, because it's hard to find fights for the boys.
yeah. What was
Not,
cool is you had a lot of local fighters on the undercard, and a lot of people might not have gotten to see it, but if you were there in the audience, you got to see a lot of the new local up and coming fighters. I got to see Kanan fight, and
yep.
some other guys that I knew from Destiny were like with the Bellator gloves in the Bellator cage, and opened some doors. I know Nainoa got a contract from one of those fights. It was cool to see the local talent getting put on the big stage in a sold out arena.
Yeah, that was a big objective of ours. It's always to develop talent, but also to give these guys, give them a shot, that's something that I always wanted to do, was like come out and help. Hawaii was so good to me, helped me around that time to be where I am today. I was like, man, I got to give back, right, to the scene and to the community. So let's try. We hosted tryouts. We just did a lot of different things. We try to get every gym involved, and we just tried hard to really make it as inclusive as possible, and just get everybody out and really take a good look at who the best guys were. Of course, there's some guys that felt like they didn't get the opportunity, but hey, you just got to keep grinding, and hopefully there'll be another big show that'll come. Hopefully Bellator keeps going. Hopefully UFC goes. I just think everybody should be going through there because it's so special.
Yeah. Well, I would always see you on TV at the weigh-ins and stuff. I'm like, wow, Rich is really doing big things, and you're the matchmaker for Bellator. Like, how was that job? I always thought it would be a cool job, but I'm sure it's not as glamorous and fun as it sounds. Like, oh, you get to pit these guys, and you actually got to go find these guys and then make a match and figure out which matches will be good. Like, how much did you enjoy doing that job in Bellator?
It was my dream job. So even the days where it was the most stressful, I would just try to remind myself of that. But we had a really great team. I worked with some really, really great people over there. It takes a team to run an event of that caliber, 200 plus guys on the roster, and at its peak, over 20, easily over 20 events a year globally. So you need a strong team. And I got a chance to work with some really great people over there. And yeah, the name of the game is just recruiting talent, right? Recruit talent, cultivating them. And what I mean by that is, developing the right matchups to bring up that talent, finding the best guys in the world at the same time. So you're kind of doing a bunch of different things at once, or at least we were. Over the UFC, they don't take guys that are pro debuts. You know what I mean? So we were developing a farm system and putting on the biggest fights we could. So we had different objectives, and we were trying to do a couple of different things simultaneously. So you're like developing top prospects, you're establishing the next contenders, and you're putting on title fights, right? So there's a lot going on, and it's a global sport now. You're dealing and negotiating and talking to coaches and teams and managers from all over the world. So yeah, it's there's a lot that goes into it. You're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with, the fight business is crazy, Thaddeus. Like, it is just, I'm sure, as you can imagine, and you just gotta be resilient, gotta have some grit, and just be prepared, just be on your toes, because it's one of those things, you wake up and your main event's injured or didn't get a visa, or who knows, right? There's a dozen different things that can happen to just ruin your day as soon as it starts, and put you in scramble mode. But I said, we had a good team, and I've learned from a lot of really great people over the years, going all the way back, like I said, getting my big break from the Penn family, early 2000s on Oahu, to Elite XC, to Strike Force, to Bellator, and everything in between. I've had really great mentors. And so and I've also been in some really crazy situations that made me battle tested and just kind of in shape, so to speak, to deal with crisis and chaos. Just being, stress tested and prepared and ready, and not lose my mind right away. So I think everything I went through over the last 20 years, put me in a position, to have that job that I had, and being around a great team was absolutely necessary. Guys like Mike Hogan, Jane Estioko, and so on and so forth, like on the talent side, Jude Samuel in London, like we had a global team. So it was far from just one person, but you need that, and you need that team, and you need that experience and that resilience, I think, to operate at that level.
Yeah, it was fun to see you doing your thing. And inside, I always felt like, wow, if Rich is there, he would honestly give Hawaii fighters like, at least a look or kind of seek out some of them. So I was like, oh, that's a good position for people in Hawaii to acknowledge that you had. It would be easier to maybe get a look versus like someone who had no ties to Hawaii. And a few of Hawaii fighters got to fight in Bellator. One of my friends, Keone, got to fight in Bellator, which was cool to see back the last couple years.
Yeah, Keone Diggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely remember Keone, talented guy. He had some great moments. I always try it. Like I said, going back to, you got to do your job, and you can't just be recruiting and signing a
Bring the whole
local guys.
state. Yeah.
I couldn't bring all the boys, but the ones that stood out and the ones that were prepared for the opportunity, I tried to, I mean, even, just to be honest, like going back to, I remember signing Ilima. I remember meeting her in Irvine at a Bellator event, and I'll be honest, like her being a local girl was like one of the things that stood out. Like, hey,
Yeah.
got this local girl, she's really aggressive, and
didn't she beat up the old lady one of
yeah,
her first fights?
Yeah, I know.
I remember
She became famous. She went viral for beating up the soccer mom.
Yeah.
But I knew from reliable sources that she had skills, but I remember meeting her and like, oh yeah, it's cool. It feels good to give someone a chance like that, right? Because it went beyond just beating up soccer mom. Soccer mom,
she ended up making you look good recruiting her because she became champion. So you
no, it's a great story, that had a good ending. And it's tough because you recruit people for so many different reasons, obviously talent being the first, but there's timing. Hey, we got a show in Hawaii, so now's a great time to look at the local talent, or we got a show in LA, or whatever it may be. There's so many different reasons why you would recruit somebody, but the odds of them actually going all the way, it's like it's rare, right? I mean, not everyone, just because you're talented doesn't mean you're going to be a champion. So when somebody comes out of like, out of the woodwork like that, because she wasn't like a highly touted like amateur wrestler or jiu-jitsu world champion, so that was really cool. And there've been several other great stories of other even non-Hawaii fighters that started their career with us either at Bellator or other organizations, and then they go on to great things, and you just always feel proud. And like, those are the things, and you also learn from it. You're like, all right, what did we do there? There's no secret formula. But look back, and how did that play out? What did that do? What did we do there or didn't do that led to this amazing result? Because you want to try, right, and do all the right things, learn from it. But at the end of the day, you realize there's no
little bit of luck.
All these different things come together, man. And sometimes, you can take credit for it. Other times you can't. But that's what makes this sport so beautiful, right? Is it's unpredictable. And anyone, whether you're from Hawaii, a tiny little island, you're from the big city, whatever it may be, a different country, you just never know, man.
It
comes together, and it's just fun and extremely memorable.
So in your opinion now, like you've seen not just Hawaii MMA, but MMA at its root core, from the smallest shows to the biggest shows, I've noticed now it's been a lot more theatrical and more WWE-ish with these mainstream fighters. And like, I mean, Sugar Sean just won, and I was kind of disappointed because of his antics and stuff. And I'm friends with Aljo and wanted him to win, but I see the whole younger generation using their MMA platform to be silly, and it just kind of doesn't feel like martial arts as much, in my opinion.
I think, I think there's something to that for sure. It's kind of sports entertainment.
Yeah.
What it is today. And back then it was just more raw. It was about the fight. right?
Yeah.
There was no social media. It wasn't on TV. Like it was just a little more pure and raw. But I'm happy to see where it's at today because, there's, again, going back to just a lot more opportunity, a lot more going on. But there are times it does get a little exhausting. Like, for example, nowadays you kind of look at, oh, how many followers does this guy have? And
Yeah.
what does he talk trash, and is he marketable? And like I said, back in the day, that's not how it was. There was no social media. You didn't book a guy or think about a fight about, thinking around. Of course, you wanted popular guys to fight, but we weren't talking about followers and how many guys,
Yeah.
how many followers on Instagram does he or she have, right? And now those things matter.
Yeah.
Right. Now those things matter. They're a good metric for how the event could do and how much interest there is on this matchup. Like social media obviously changed the world,
Yeah.
and it definitely changed our sport for good and for bad. I think people see the guys that do really well with it, the Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz's of the world, even BJ back in the day. He came just right before the boom, but I always think about if BJ was around
Oh
during this
yeah.
era, all crazy shit he would say, and his big personality would have been
Yeah.
perfect for this
Or he would
current.
have got in more trouble.
Sure. Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a different ball game. And I think just like with you guys, it's like no one's doing what they did 20 years ago,
Definitely. Yeah.
right? Like you have to adapt, you have to know the world's a different place, the media landscape, everything entertainment. And I think the sport had to make adjustments. Because if you didn't, you realize no one was paying attention, right?
Yeah.
So you do have to be in touch with what people are saying out there, and who the fans like. So the good thing is you can go and look, right? You can actually not guess, and you
Yeah.
can actually figure out who's popular, what the conversations are around. And so that's helpful. But I do understand your point of sometimes things being a little, gimmicky and maybe, WWE-ish. I know the pure fans, the hardcore fans, they don't like that.
Yeah. Do you think it takes away from what traditional martial arts was? Like how, like I grew up doing Taekwondo and went through the belt system. I know you did jujitsu, which is a traditional martial art, and to get a black belt used to mean a whole bunch. It would mean more than being a world champion, in my opinion, because of the time it took and perseverance it took to get there. And it just seems kind of opposite now how MMA is going versus like traditional martial arts and discipline and respect and honor, loyalty, and all that stuff. I know it kind of may play in a role, but it seems little opposite.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that's why the guys that stand out that still have those roots, um, I kind of gravitate towards them, and it is cool, like to see, as you mentioned, someone carry, it's crazy to say it, but kind of these old school values and roots,
Yeah.
right? It is cool to see that. I mean, you just don't see guys, now guys are, again, going back to what we said earlier, they're kind of athletes, right?
Yeah.
Come in, be big and strong, be good at wrestling, and maybe sometimes you got guys that they didn't even wrestle. They're just freak athletes, and they just learn all these things and they become great fighters, and they didn't have really a martial arts background, right? They're just good athletes. So, back in the day, everyone was like a jujitsu guy,
Yeah.
like it came from an art, right? It was style versus style. That's how this whole thing started. And through these different routes, like you just saw the connection with traditional martial arts. And you know I know there's a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that still compete today, but yeah, you're right, it's definitely a different era. It's the era, it's sports entertainment, we got athletes, um and I'm okay with that though, Thaddeus.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted like you, being an old school guy and having this background, and sometimes I shake my head at things, but I also look at the bigger picture and I see how big the sport is. I see how some of my friends and some people that I know of that are good people have been able to change their lives. and take care of their families and do really great things.
Yourself included.
Oh, thank you. It's, yeah, I can't knock the thing that has given me, look, I'm no rich man by any means, but man, I'm a happy guy. I feel
Yeah.
lucky. Had all these great opportunities. I have so many great friends. I traveled the world. So those things really, really, um, I feel like are what make me happy and what define me as a person, those experiences. But I've seen a lot of other people benefit like that. That's what brings us all together, this martial arts
Yeah.
community, is we all look at each other and we're like, man, how lucky are we? You know, I don't have the glory, nor do I deserve the glory a fighter gets, but I'm happy that they have that. I'm happy that they can
Yeah.
turn that into money and take care of their families. And then hopefully they can take that and spread it in the community, right? Go and speak to kids, go and train, open up a gym, coach, continue to grow martial arts. The ones that are able to do that, and then I feel kind of a bit satisfied about where it's at. Like, look, if it wasn't for all this, we wouldn't have the ability to have people do that, right?
Yeah.
So give and take, right? Like
And
you
it's
had,
still fun to watch. And it's still, you gotta, the, at the end, the cage doors close. No matter what antics you had, it's going to be a martial arts competition. Yeah.
yes, exactly. What happens in there is still one of the purest things in sport, right?
Yeah.
Like once you close that door, there's no teammates. There is obviously a referee and rules, but they're very limited. But
Hmm.
it's you guys, right? The fight can go 10 seconds, it can go 15 minutes or 25 minutes, depending what type, right? As we know. But you're right, the action, it's still pure in there. It's the best it's ever been. I mean, I look at how good the guys are today,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, man, back in the day, they would have smashed, just like anything, right? The basketball players, football players of today
Yeah.
are far better athletes and just much better, bigger, faster, stronger than the guys that played back in the day 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So the level is so high. It's amazing and fun to watch.
Yeah. And
Uh,
techniques evolve. And yeah, it's definitely fun to watch now. And I think for me, is as a traditionalist, I kind of root for those more traditional fighters, but I still tune in every day to watch whatever. And
yeah.
it's still I'm still a fan of the sport. I know you got to be, like you said earlier, around that whole Jake Paul, Nate Diaz thing. Like, how was that a circus?
Yeah, that was something different, man, that as long as I've been in this game, 20 plus years, been around a lot of really cool and crazy events and moments. That was unique. That was a thing in and of itself. Boxing and MMA cultures are really different. So you got to factor that in. And then you got to look at who we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
My first experience around like the Paul camp and their group. And then very comfortable around Nate and his crew and his team, his manager and I, worked together on another project I think we'll talk about later. But, so I was having a lot of fun. And here's how I know that I wasn't alone, because like at some of these events, like at the open workout and the press conference and all these things leading up to it, I would run into other people like media members and other people in the fight community. And we'd all at some point acknowledge how, like, man, this is so different and crazy. And sometimes there's things that we're not used to seeing, or it's not, it's just done a different way than what we're used to, like going to these big MMA events. But we always ended it with, yeah, man, but this is fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy, right? Like this is so
Yeah.
fun. This is like, you kind of feel guilty, like, shit, this is really fun. Like this is kind of wild and crazy. It's not like anything we're used to, show up and a fight week, they kind of have this flow and the structure to it. This thing was like, yeah, it was wild. It was raw. And it reminded me of the old days of what we've been talking about. Kind of had a little bit of that magic to it.
Oh, okay.
So that's what kind of made it fun. It reminded me of the old days too. That was a part of it. But yeah, it was wild. I was happy to see Nate get that opportunity. He's earned
Yeah.
it. And I know he didn't get the W, but I was still just happy for him to have that moment. That place
It
was
was
packed.
it
It
was
was
a
like
trip.
G like no other.
Yeah, it was insane. I was like out of nowhere. I'm watching the face off, and there you are in the back. I'm like, whoa, that makes sense. Like, he's always in some crazy. How did you even get
Hey,
up there?
yeah, so Nate's manager, Zach, a good friend of mine. We're business partners on another project called Alta. We can talk about it later. But so he's like, "Hey, can you come and join me? You've been around a lot of events, and this is our first. They were launching their fight promotion. Nate was and Zach RFI, Real Fight Inc. Like, hey man, can you come hang out during fight week and just kind of be around and just be part of the team and you know, let's just see what craziness comes up and maybe you can help us out." And it was my pleasure, man, and an honor. I was like, hell yeah, of course. You know, love Nate, love you. I'm there. And so he's like, hey, do you want to do the face-offs? Like, you've done this several times. Want to open do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. If that's what you need, if that's that's what's necessary right now, I'm here to help. And so I ended up there, and I got to admit, like you said earlier, I have been a part of a few brawls here and there, especially with the Diaz boys. But man, that one was like honestly the heaviest one. Like I was just talking to somebody about it earlier today, and there were some big boys up there,
Yo.
big boys, and they were
Yeah.
moving fast and they were pushing the line back. And I had to move my feet, man. I had to like hustle and angle out there because they were moving us. Punches were flying, and that was one of the heaviest. I've been in quite a few, but that one was probably the heaviest.
But
Yeah.
at least you could sense what was happening, and you're a martial artist, so you could either defend yourself or get out the way or
Yeah, you know what? I would like to think that, but these guys were so big. I was just thinking to myself, like, what would work? Like these guys are like NFL lineman size, guys like 6'5", 360
all
plus
yoked out.
athletic. Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? Just move out of the way. Just use some footwork right now and use your head, and just you don't want to be in the middle of all this. So we made sure Nate was good. He was out of the way. I know the boys know how to take care of themselves. So um yeah, but that was heavy. That was hectic.
Hey, it was another thing to go in your list of experiences, that's for sure.
Yes, yes. I remember after my phone was blowing up, a bunch of guys like, "Oh, what were you doing up there?" or "How was that?" And I just thought to myself, man, just when I thought I was done, having left Bellator now coming up on 3 years, I thought I was done with face-offs, and I guess not. So what a way to come back to that whole scene with the madness. But that was a lot of fun, and I know people are kind of critical of it. Look, it's fun, it's entertainment, and you know, I enjoyed it, man. You knew what you were gonna get.
Yeah.
You
So
knew.
so now you're done with Bellator, and you kind of touched on it before, but you're started a new thing, and I've heard first about it when it was called Wimp to Warrior. I listened to a podcast called Fighter and the Kid, and they had two of their employees go through your program. You guys changed the name, so what has that all been about, and how has that been going for you?
Yeah, yeah. So let me tell you how I how it all, how my involvement, how that all kind of came together. Um, about 3 years ago, I just felt like it was time for me on a personal and professional level to kind of move on and try different things. My kids are they're young, and I wanted to be around them more. I didn't want to be traveling as much, with the traveling circus that is live events, 20
Yeah.
plus events a year. And I wanted to be at home more. And I also wanted to try different things in the sport or just, I just felt like, I don't know, something spoke to me. My gut just told me now might be a time to pivot before you get a little too old to do so. Like you're still, I feel like I'm still fairly young
Yep.
and still have some energy and some grind in me. So now might be a good time to find something else to do in this game in the world of martial arts to help it grow. Let me get a different experience in, because I had been doing promoting now going on at that point maybe 20 years or so, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So it just felt right. And then I also at the same time wanted to make a lifestyle change for my family. So this opportunity came up. There was this company called Wimp to Warrior, as you mentioned. I'm like, man, that's an interesting name, right? Like it really grabs your attention. Wimp to Warrior, what is that? And I knew that John Kavanagh was involved. I knew that. That's Conor McGregor's coach, of course, and I knew John was closely involved. And then I met the CEO and founder Nick Langton, and he's an Australian guy. So the company was based out of Australia, an
Okay.
Australian guy who had a really was very passionate about um, growing MMA and martial arts. And then I heard his story. So the Wimp to Warrior program is a 20-week training camp that takes average everyday people, puts them in a camp, and then gives them an amateur fight at the end. So it's like human transformation to the fullest, mental, physical, spiritual. Not everyone is a fight fan. Some people just want a crazy bucket list challenge. Some people need to hit the reset button. People join the program from all walks of life for different reasons, and that's what makes it so special. And at the end, you test yourself with the walk into the cage. And so this guy Nick, he's a Harvard guy, right? So I'm on chatting on several Zooms with him, kind of the interview process, and he starts telling me his story. Well, he actually went through the program. He was a banker, a financial, in the financial world, went through the 20 weeks and fought at the end. So the guy I was talking to actually did it. He's not just, not just
Yeah.
some businessman, not just some really smart guy from Harvard who is pushing this company in this program. He walked the walk, and so that was important to me. John Kavanagh, him being a partner in it, those were big things for me, because I'm always about like, who am I going to work with, right?
Yeah.
What's the spirit and soul behind this? So, all right, two really great guys, smart, passionate guys that have, a ton of martial arts experience. John's a great coach. He's fought several times. Nick's a really sharp guy. He's also fought. And then I heard like what the goal is. Like it's not just about getting people to get in the cage, but it's just what that does for people, the transformation of just training,
Yeah.
um, going through this, learning about yourself, conquering your fears, the things that you learn from training. I know you've spent time on the mat, right? Like it's truly transformative, right? And it becomes a lifestyle. And
And it stays with you your whole life for sure.
exactly, those things you learn as a martial artist are what are things you take with you into family life, business, being a better human. It's the best workout. It's the most exciting sport to watch. And it's also the most transformative thing out there in the world of, let's call it fitness, right?
Yeah.
Like you can swing a kettlebell, you can do burpees and pull-ups, and that's all great. But there's nothing like what martial arts training can do for you. And for those that want to take it to the next level, that walk to the cage at the end of Alta, well, Whip to Warrior then turned into Alta. So that end of, we rebranded, but at the end of this camp, at the end of this journey, you making that walk, it's a total game changer. I mean, housewives, businessmen like Nick, I mean, that so profoundly changed his life. He said, I have to give this experience to more people, right? So there's just so many different, you know, um, benefits from martial arts training, as and to take it to the masses, to take it to the world, which is the mission. of what is now known as Alta is something that I wanted to be a part of, something that I felt important, that was important to me. And I thought, how lucky am I to land in another great position? 20 something years ago, I got to get into the fight business. And now 20 something years later, I get to join this company that's doing something so unique and transforming lives and just spreading martial arts, to the world. So I thought, man, I have to go for it. This is it. This is what I was looking for. And I'm so
Nice.
lucky that we found each other. So, we're getting ready to do some big things. The company is famous for that 20-week training camp. As you mentioned, Brendan Schaub, he had a couple of his boys, from the crew and the studio train and fight out of LA and Burbank at Alberto Crane School. But it's not just about, not everyone has to fight. We know that, there's a lot of different things that can prevent someone from making that kind of commitment. But our whole thing is just train, get in there, find a gym, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, MMA, whatever it is. We want to help you find the right gym for you to start your journey. You and I know you could be a kid, you can be a middle-aged man or older or woman. Martial arts is for everybody, right? All walks of
Definitely.
life, all ages. It's just this really beautiful thing that is so inclusive. You may love football and have played in high school and college, but it comes a point where you can't do that anymore, right? You can't
Yeah,
play
definitely.
football. Martial arts is sustainable. So you can train this, you know, Elio Gracie was on the mat putting a gi on until he passed in his 90s. Like it truly, is a lifestyle if you commit to it. And so that's what I do every day with these amazing people. We've got some really awesome coaches on board that joined us, Daniel Cormier, Eugene Berriman over in
Oh,
Auckland,
wow.
New Zealand. And there's so many guys that we've worked with that have run the program, in the Bay Area, um, CSA with Kurian and Jesse Jess, El Nino with Gilbert. Um, Extreme Couture in Vegas has run several programs. Like there's so many great gyms, in LA, we have so many. Globally, this thing is just growing. And what we're starting to realize is there's obviously a lot of MMA fans now out there, right?
Yeah.
And no one's really encouraging them to train, right? The industry is selling them pay-per-views and tickets and t-shirts and CBD and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
We in my opinion, we stand out because we're speaking to them with a different message, like get in your local gym. Doesn't matter what it is.
Don't just be a fan. You could be about it.
Yeah, take it to the next level. Or if you're looking for something to do, because you might not be a fan, but you're into fitness and you're looking for the next challenge. Well, try martial arts training, and we work with everybody. This isn't about one particular type or team for jiu-jitsu or kick. It's everybody. And so that's what we want to do, is just grow this whole thing. Everyone should be training at their local gym. These gyms are, they're community centers. You know that. You go to
Yeah,
a gym in the afternoon, early evening, you got kids there, parents there. It's an amazing place. And there's a lot of positive stuff that goes on. I don't care if it's
definitely.
Taekwondo, like whatever it is, what goes on in these places. It's really special. And we're just trying to push that and use, create a big voice to amplify that message.
Well, hopefully there's a chapter in Hawaii where people get the opportunity to do that here in Hawaii. That would be awesome.
Yes, definitely. I'm a little nervous about taking this 20-week challenge over there because I could see a lot of local guys and girls, jumping on it and look,
Gassing out.
yeah, whatever your reason is for joining, but again, like I said, we do a lot more than that. That's what we're
Yeah.
known for, was that 20-week camp and transforming people's
It's a
lives.
long time, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a major commitment. But when you think
Yeah.
about what you're putting yourself through and what you have to accomplish,
Yeah.
it's very necessary. But I think people, to speak on that just for a sec, I think people need a goal, right? So sometimes you got to jump in and dive on the deep end. Some people are like, yeah, I've trained before, and or I've thought about it. But when you give them that big challenge of, how about a fight in 20 weeks against someone who's never fought before either,
Yeah.
is just learning like you. Sometimes that just, they go home that night and they think about it, and it just keeps them up at night, right? Man or woman. And you're like,
Yeah.
do it. Something's telling me to go for it and do it. So it's again, you don't have to fight.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just think,
some people need that in life. They've been like that. That's basically what the whole movie Fight Club was. Just these people, business people or whatever, just wanting to kind of do it. I mean, fighting is in our DNA. No matter who you are, where you are, you end up fighting your little brother or cousin when you're young. Is something humans did since the dawn of time. It's just in human DNA. And sometimes people need to kind of get it out of their system or experience it. And I mean, it's not a fun thing to do to get punched in the face, but you punch somebody in the face, sometimes it feels good, to be honest.
yeah, it feels good. You learn from it, you grow from it, and that's why I don't mind seeing, this era, to go back to what you said about all these different people, and the way it's presented and the spectacle. I don't mind it for that reason. Like I said, I look at it differently now. It ultimately grows everything. It is good for it. Look at Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like that right there. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Bringing awareness. It's getting the whole tech world and community to really think about martial arts now in a different way. Logan Paul and Jake Paul, like what they're doing, bringing boxing, like who knows how many kids are going to box because of them,
Very true.
kids watching their stuff that have followed them, they may make a really positive impact on a lot of these kids that want to get into boxing. And who knows, maybe you'll get the next world champ or several people, even if they're never fighters, but they train and they experience the benefits of it and it helps them in life. That's kind of
Yeah.
what, there's a bigger picture now for me and how I see things. um I just want people to benefit from martial arts. Like whether you're a fan, it entertains you, let's take it to the next level, let's get you in a gym. um yeah, it's an interesting time. Like this, I feel like we're having a moment right now in the industry and in the MMA world with, all these crazy things happening, influencer fights,
Oh yeah.
two of the tech titans teasing this fight, MMA growing, UFC crushing it, Bellator doing good, PFL, ONE FC, right? It's like there's so much going on, and I just love it. Because
Yep.
again, what I see is the bigger this thing gets, the more people become fans, and hopefully the more people can train.
Yep. And honestly, if you have anybody seen it at the grassroots level and to see in 20 years where it's come is, yeah, it's inspiring. I like what you're doing. I like that whole Alta system and mentality. I think, like you said, a lot of people could benefit from it. And there, like you said, it comes a time where people want to test themselves, and a lot of it, it's not even have to be about fighting somebody, as facing your fear of fighting somebody. And if you face your fears and go through it, win or lose, like you become a better person. I definitely know that for a fact.
Yes, no, 100%. And even to this day, when I go train, I don't know, I just love the edge it gives me. I remember driving to go train with these monsters that are my brothers, but they're just like, I just was driving when I lived in the Bay Area. I would drive from San Jose to South San Francisco to train with my team, a really great coach named Jay Gennaro, and then these monsters, in their high level black belts they were just beasts. John, AZ, and others. I have to shout them out because they did so much for me. But I tell you, I would drive over there like I would get butterflies. I would get like a little healthy dose of like fear and anxiety. Like, oh man, this is gonna be another session with the boys, and of course they were it was hard training, and you go through it, you lick your wounds and you get in the car and driving home. And I would just think about, oh man, that was a rough practice. Got smashed and, had some moments. But I tell you what, Thaddeus, driving home at some point, it would turn into the biggest smile. Like, oh, it was so awesome. Like I
Yep.
needed that. Like that balances me out. Now I'm ready to go back, um, get back to work, get back to the kids, right? Like that's what I needed. That was my therapy. That was my release. Also was a great workout. So it's stuff like that that made me just I get it, man. If I don't train, if I don't, like, I get all cranky. My wife will tell me like, go train, out of here. Like you're being, whatever. Like get it out of you. You're just like too pent up. And so yeah, people need it. It's something no one will ever regret, I think,
Yeah.
putting time and training. So yeah, I know you've experienced it. You're an advocate of it, and I think we just need more of that. So I will be, you know, I will be preaching that, you know, from now probably until till the day I die. Like get yourself in the gym and go train, regardless of if I'm doing it on behalf of our business or not. As you mentioned earlier, I'm a martial artist for life, and
Yep.
I take pride in that, and I'll always, um, try and live that too.
Yep. Well, one thing I noticed, and I read a little bit in one of your interviews why you left Bellator, but one thing I noticed through your social media and what I admire most about you personally, and it's something that I try to pride myself on, is how you are as a father. And I know for a fact you put your kids before anything. And it helped with a lot of decision making you had in business, and um how you treat your kids and how you are with your family and your children is something that I admire most about you. Not any Bellator fights, anything you did in MMA. You being a dad and how you treat your kids is what I'm the most impressed of. And I see it on your social media. I see it in your face and your passion for your children. And for me, I'm really stoked to know that about you, because it's kind of getting lost a little bit, but there's certain people that it really shines through, and that's something I admire about you. And it's cool to see, man. You do a lot for your kids, bro.
Thank you. You trying to make me cry or something, man? Oh, thank you. That is like the greatest compliment I could ever receive. I know we've talked about a lot of cool stuff we've done and accomplished over the years, but you're right. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you're not showing the kids the way, if you're not trying your best to give them a good life where they're learning and growing, then what's it all for?
Yeah.
I'm no, I'm flattered and I'm honored, man, that you see that in me, and that that you look at me like that. Because at the end of the day, yeah, that's what's most important to me, and I know you as well. I see the same thing, right
Yep.
back at you, like with your daughter. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And
see
it
that. There's nothing more important. We get to do cool stuff, interact with really fun and great people. But at the end of the day, man, you go home and you got to be a dad.
Yep. And it's true. Like your kids, for me, my daughter could care less if I sell out all the tables in the club or fill the show at a concert, or I'm sure your kids could care less if so and so won the belt, or you just killed the O2 arena, or it's like when they come home, they just want daddy. Doesn't matter anything else. And they want to be locked in with you. They want to be um to know that you're locked in with them. And I see it, and I've seen your son's podcast, and it's so cool to see how he's being his own individual yet being your son at the same time. And to me, that's so important. And yeah, just watching you go through it is cool, man. Kids change everything, and putting your kids first is definitely something that I try to definitely do, and I see you doing. And bro, dads like us are becoming not as common, but acknowledgeable, and to be proud that you're a dad is kind of less common, in my opinion.
Yes, it's oh, I love your perspective on it. I think you're spot on. I love I love talking to other dads. I love, obviously, everything we've discussed up to this point. It's been a super fun conversation. But this is like, we just went next level.
Yeah.
This is like what it's really about. That's fun. It's memorable, great times, but this is where it's at for me, man, at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't know. I just take so much. It's not always easy, as we know, but I just try to do my best. I call my kids like my best friends, and
Yeah.
really believe that. I try to include them in as much as possible. I try to keep them in mind, you know, when there's times I don't want to do something, or, try to be a good example. So yeah, it's the hardest but most important job, right, in the world. And I think being a parent,
Yeah.
not just a dad, but a parent, period. And there's things I've learned and I've seen in my life, like, by no means, I'm certainly not the smartest guy in the world, but I try to learn from others, and I try to look at examples out there and just absorb as much as I can. And, I'm sure you can say the same. There's a lot of people out there that you may have met that are very successful, um, from a financial standpoint, but if the family life ain't right, then
100%.
it's not, it's just, it's off, and yeah, that helped put things in perspective for me, just seeing how life can, the pursuit of certain things and taking your eyes off what's most important can just disrupt everything. So you could end up making all the money you ever wanted and more, but if you don't have your family to share it with, and that relationship isn't there, then it's pointless, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, hanging with the boys, we know, like, you've managed to balance that, to do what you do still to this day and still be a family man is tough, because, we all know the boys that get into trouble because they don't go home
Yeah.
and take that on. And, so yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard, but I tell you, my favorite times are going to practice, and whatever my kids are up to, going to
Yep.
game. There's nothing. I've been cage side at some really cool stuff. I've been to some cool events. Nothing tops sitting there for a little league baseball game for me,
Yep.
or a swim. I mean, a soccer, swim practice or soccer game for, it's just, yeah, that's where it's at now, man. And so that's
Yep.
kind of everything we're talking about. I think taking it back 20 plus years, when we first met, when we were coming up to where we are now, I think at the end of the day, it's this evolution of us turning into men,
Yep. And the
and that,
hustle's the same. You can hustle the same for being a good parent, and it's the same mindset, is just focused on something different. And you're right, like I would watch my daughter play volleyball versus the Niners win the Super Bowl. It's just maybe not that, but maybe
ah,
a regular season game.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know, bro. We're due for one of those big
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is the year. Yeah, maybe a regular season game. Super Bowl, yeah, maybe you
Yeah.
could
Skip
skip
the
a couple.
volleyball. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so gratifying watching them achieve goals, and being passionate about something, and seeing them be so involved with something. That, for me, that trumps anything, bro. It's something that I try to make sure that I'm a part of all the time. And for me, I was blessed. I could look up at any football game, or any of my taekwondo or kickboxing fights, or anything, that soccer, baseball, I could look up in the stands and see my parents. And as a kid, I didn't really appreciate it until my mom's no longer here, and I realized I'm doing it for my daughter, and I'm like, it's just something that I hold dear to my heart, and was blessed to be able to be a son with that kind of love from my parents. And I said there's no way that I'm not going to be that same kind of parent. So it's just something that feels good inside, but it's just something that it becomes the person you are. And I see it in you, bro. It's super cool, man.
Oh, hey, thank you. Right back at you. You know, the thing that I'm really impressed is like, you know, well, there's several things like that I value, and when I see it in other people, you're still doing to this day what you love to do, right? Like
Yeah,
a lot of people have to make sacrifices and transitions and do different things. Like, oh, I wanted to do that, but I had my family, so I had to, you know, and of course there's always going to be an element of that, but I still have my dream job and get to do really, really, really fun and you know, I'd like to think meaningful things every day. I still get to do what I want to do. I'm super lucky. And I fight for the balance to be around the kids. So to do what you love to do and be a present, active, you know, in tune, in touch parent, that's hard. And so I
definitely.
see that, you know, it's not like you completely transitioned out and, you know, but you're still doing what you love to do. Still, you know, we're still kind of kids at a certain element of this, right? We're like, we still, hey man, we're still here, still doing
Yeah.
it, having fun, you know, working hard and, you know, building something. But come on, we're lucky. We get to do fun stuff. As you mentioned, we still look young and handsome. So,
Yep.
but in all seriousness, to balance it all out and to be a parent, because you know, I see guys tell me all the time, man, it's really cool that you get to do all that travel and be around something and be a part of something that's growing. And you know what? They're right. I should not mess it up, take it very seriously, work hard to keep it going, and that's what I try to do. So, and I know you view it all the same way, right?
Yep,
Like
definitely.
you love the life you live, and you know, it's hard work, but you got to maintain it. So yeah, much respect to you. I knew that when you reached out, we were going to be able to connect and vibe and talk story on a different level now. We're not kids
Yep.
anymore.
Yep, definitely not. Hey, to be old and wise, you got to be young and crazy, and I'm pretty sure both of us experienced both of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'm sure we can't talk about
Oh yeah,
on this
might
show.
be used as evidence or something.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm happily married now, so I'd like to keep
Yeah.
it that way. But no, this is cool. I love reconnecting again for various reasons, for fun, for nostalgia, but also to kind of, like I said, acknowledge where we're at and how far we've come, man. You know, so good job to you too. I know you've been giving me a ton of props and respect on this, and I just I'm giving it right back, man. You're a good
Thank you,
man.
bro.
You're doing great things, and I'm just I'm glad we got to catch up.
Yep, man. And we've been going for over an hour, bro. I could probably talk to you way longer. Last thing I wanted to ask you, and this is random, but you met a lot of people and celebrities and sports stars in your life, and I always wanted to ask you this: who is the coolest person, or like one of the most meaningful people, celebrity or sports star, that you got to meet in your life?
Oh man, that is a good question. It's a tough one. Um, you know, something that's really fresh on my mind, and I think it applies to what we've been talking about, all the stuff we've been talking about. I was in Tokyo recently with my family. I brought them along. There was a Bellator Rising event, and we made it a family trip, and you know, checked out the fights, and you know, a little work, a little pleasure. It's always great to be able to do that. So we were in the hotel. We were staying at the Grand Hyatt in Tokyo, and we were walking around and trying to figure out. I was bringing my son to the weigh-ins. We were going to go check out the morning weigh-ins. It was at a different hotel, and we're walking in the lobby, And I'm on my phone. Do I Uber? Do we just get a taxi outside? And I look up and I see Dave Grohl from the Foo
Foo
Fighters.
Fighters. Yeah.
And they're like one of my favorite bands, and I can go on and on about them. And I'm just like,
Yeah, he is Nirvana too, man. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's Dave Grohl. And I call my son over and I'm like, hey, Ollie, check it out. You know who that is? And he's like, kind of, sort of, who is it? I go, that's, the Foo Fighters. He goes, oh, it's Dave Grohl, because he was wearing a hat and he wasn't instantly recognizable, I guess, to him. But anyways, he saw me, walked by, said hello, and we started a conversation. And what's really interesting and cool, first of all, I was trying so hard not to fan out. Like, don't embarrass yourself. Like, I'm a big fan, bro, like a big fan. Go to their shows, their songs are very meaningful to my family, and so on and on, right? So I'm like, just keep it together. Don't get all weird. I'm out and profess your love for them, and we just had a very normal, basic conversation. Like, what are you doing today? Hey, where are you guys going? And he was with his kids, and they were getting ready to go do some sightseeing. And we talked. Oh, we talked about, because Ollie told him we were going to the weigh-ins, and so we started talking about fighting a little bit, and then we just said goodbye and walked away. He was kind enough to take a photo, but I bring that up, and I'm really happy it went that way, because it goes back to something we were talking about earlier. At the end of the day, I was just talking to another parent, right? Right? Like, really, we vibed and connected on that level of just, you're one of the greatest rock stars of all time. But right now, we are talking about how cool it is to bring your family on these trips, whether he's playing music or I'm going to go check out some fights and meet up with some industry people, how we both get to do that. And then we just talked about traveling with the family, and then what we plan to do during the day, and a little bit about MMA. And then we just said goodbye. And to me, that was like, he's just a dad like me, right? Traveling with his family, dealing with the same challenges.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that that was something that I'm first of all happy that I didn't freak out, right? But also that was my big takeaway. It was like, he's so cool, but at the end of the day, maybe we're not that different, you
Wow,
know?
I wasn't expecting that. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like some other guys I've met, it was like that big, you're kind of talking about all their accomplishments and how big of a fan you are, and we're talking fighting the whole time, and because that's our connection, right?
Yeah.
Him, it was just like a normal guy, like, hey man, what are you guys doing today? And so whether you're a big famous rock star or not, at the end of the day, he's just a dad. He's a dude taking his family to go sightseeing in Japan, and he's dude that thinks MMA is kind of goofy sometimes too, because what we were talking about. So I hope that satisfied and answered your question. I know it was a long
Definitely.
story, but
Yeah.
I had to get all the details out, because to me that is, it was the most recent and fresh in my mind, but also that takeaway of, hey man, sometimes at the end of the day, we're all just the same.
Yep.
Trying to
Wow,
get our
that
kids in
that
the car to
that
go sightseeing.
that's super cool. I wasn't expecting that. That's a better answer than what I imagined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got some cool Niner stories. We'll save that for when we're at the game. And
Yo. Well, yeah, you got to meet Montana and Rice, huh?
yeah, on two different occasions.
That's super cool.
We've been lucky. We've hosted, Coach Kyle and some of the team. And yeah, that's another really great, like Scott Coker, when I lived in San Jose and worked at Bellator, he's a huge Niner fan too,
Oh,
like
perfect.
my mom. So, we got a chance to interact, and those are the perks. Those are the things, like I said, I don't got millions in the bank, but man, I got to do some really cool stuff, have
Yeah.
some great experiences.
$1 million worth of memories. That's even better.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. So, yeah, I hope that story, in my mind, it was way cooler than the way it came out. Hopefully,
Nah, that was
you
super cool,
understood.
bro. Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you for coming on my show. I definitely would love to connect with you sometime in the future, see what you've been up to. I know you got a whole big future of even everything you accomplished now. There's like you still haven't reached your cap. So it'll be cool to touch base with you in the future and see what you're up to. And yeah, I appreciate you taking time. I know it's late in Dallas. And if people want to get involved with Alta, and where can people find you on Instagram and stuff?
For Alta, trainalta.com. You won't be disappointed. You will learn a lot about the sport. We've got world-class coaches, really great programs that'll challenge you. And of course, as I said, as we've said, martial arts is amazing. So learn more about it. Start your journey at trainalta.com. If for some reason you're interested in who I am as a person after all this, at Rich_Chou is where I'm at on social media. And I just celebrate martial arts in my family on there, and some cool things in between. So yeah, man, that's kind of a snapshot of me right there. So
right on. When you gonna come visit the islands again?
I was just there. I'm sorry I missed you, but we'll be back again, man. It's so much further now. 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
Maybe
always
we can link up in Santa Clara to watch the Niners beat on somebody.
Oh yeah, what is that, October
8th, and then I'm going December 10th for sure to watch Niners play Seattle. Yeah,
we might just have to just meet up at a game. And what jersey do you wear?
I wear a Thaddeus jersey, because every time I bought a jersey,
like that.
I had Gore, I had Willis, Bowman, I had everybody. I was like, oh, cannot keep buying these jerseys. So I get number 44, which is Kanyeoi 96744. So I wear 44. Okay. And then I have Thaddeus in the back because they can't trade me. I'm never gonna retire, and I won't have to buy another jersey.
No, that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah.
You've kind of inspired me maybe to get a little creative myself. But
yeah, my daughter has one too. It says Aria.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm a big fan anymore after hearing that from you. I gotta go. I gotta step my game up. But
it was more of a financial thing. I have a Kittle jersey, though. I definitely have a Kittle jersey.
Yeah, he's a man. Yeah, let's do it. I will meet you at a game, and we will.
That would be cool.
We will keep celebrating these good memories.
Yep, definitely. And for us, you can find us on Above the Bridge Podcast on Instagram. Our YouTube channel is Above the Bridge Podcast. Our website is atbpod.com, and you can find me on Thaddy Daddy High on Instagram. Well, man, I appreciate you. And Brad, this is one of the longest episodes I had, and I probably could talk to you for another, especially if we went back into talking about old school Hawaii fights. That would take another 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, next time we'll save that. But yeah, we have to do that one of these days, because it was.
Yeah. I'll talk to you about that in person, so we could get more behind the scenes stuff that we can't really talk about on air.
Thank you, Thad.
Yep. Thank you, bro. Shakas for the cameras. All right, man. I appreciate you. We're out. Shout out to the Artist Group Network. Aloha.